It's all new to me. Hey, welcome to awsexpert for those people who've just joined. We're across 3 channels today. We're LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. So this is the first time we've done a LinkedIn live session and a YouTube and Twitch all in one. It's also the first time we've done a video chat. And I'll give a bit of an introduction to who we are, what awsexpert is about. At the moment, we don't have any viewers online, but we'll gradually get some. We'll get some added. Okay, let's start it. So today we're going to talk about security on AWS. That's a massive topic. What we have been discussing in the last few chats is just AWS security in general. Previous to that, we talked about infrastructure as code. Today, I'm really pleased to introduce everyone to Ankit. Ankit is quite experienced in the AWS space. I'll let him introduce himself. So I'll hand it over to you, Ankit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this of our first live cast. Usually, we used to talk on audio chat only. So I have around 10 years of experience in cloud industry, and I'm using AWS since 2010 sometime. And yeah, I serve many startups and a lot of companies who wants to move to cloud. So yeah, let's get started.
Excellent. So for those people that haven't met me, I'm Ben Fellows. I'm interested in AWS Cloud. I started using AWS in the enterprise space about 2012. I ended up working for some AWS partners. I'm just really passionate about helping people in AWS in terms of building communities and just helping people in the open source space as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to today, wherever you are. So I'm based in New Zealand and it's just after 9 o'clock here. Ankit comes from, he's in Thailand, so he's it's about 3 o'clock, isn't it, over there?
Yeah, that's 3 o'clock right now.
Yeah, that's right. So, and then we do have some other people that sometimes join us in Germany and UK. So, obviously, a bit behind us, but excellent. Okay, we'll start the discussion, and yeah, I'd really like to hear from you, Ankit. So, any opening thoughts you have around the AWS security, even if you want to recap, maybe on some of the things we discussed in the last couple of sessions, just for people who didn't have the opportunity to listen in.
So yeah, let's start with some basic things. Like usually whenever we talk to people about AWS, and in most of the time, it starts with S3 bucket with public read and write access. Still, it's going on. So those are the that's the first key factor. Other than that, still people commit their access key and secret to Git repositories and completely available. So people keep driving it. I remember just a couple of months back, there was an incident from one of the, I believe it was one of the maybe aviation industry somewhere. So they put the complete backup of their user data on S3 bucket, and it was publicly accessible. Someone fetched the data, and then all those people started receiving those junk emails and everything. But now, as we are seeing that this for Thailand, they are going with PDPA, that is Personal Data Protection Act. It's the same as a GDPR in European Union. So people are looking more towards security, also little bit responsible things. So yeah, first thing is S3. Let's talk about S3 then. How about you, Ben? Have you met any of the customers who have problem with S3?
Yes, definitely. I think one of the things I found was with early customers, I mean, you've got these, just started doing automated deployments. And so people setting up buckets and didn't realize they were public because back in the day, a few years ago, just the way S3 buckets were configured either through the console or through automation, people would go and grab a CloudFormation template, for example, off a sample website, static bucket, and then they might use that bucket for backups. They might use that the S3 bucket for anything, sensitive information. And so I have seen that before where people have, just by default, the templates they've used some open source or some available quick start templates, and they've made the mistake of having a public S3 bucket. Fast forward to now, of course, that by default, with AWS S3 buckets are not public, so it makes it a lot easier. It makes it easier, especially, you can either do automation as well, or in the console. If most people are starting out to find they're using the console, obviously, the console, you get most of the features of the console that you can with automation, but the beauty of automation is that you get to check things into Git. You can have automated workflows to test your security. You've got all these different tools out there that can test that. Definitely another thing I found was that people would give full, so this sort of talks about the IAM side, identity and access management, for those people who are listening. The IAM side of AWS is that we've had people that would have full administration access to S3 buckets, so accidentally deleting buckets, whether it's through a script or just pressing the wrong thing. Also, people having access to content or objects in buckets, so they shouldn't have been able to delete objects, as well as viewing objects and data from there. So I think that's interesting too, because AWS provides all those controls, and of course it is up to you as a customer or a consultant, if you like, to make sure that you're making use of all those controls. And as you know, Ankit, AWS has grown into this massive beast of over 200 services now. So it's not as simple as 10 years ago when you could launch 3 different services. So yeah.
And also, like, while talking about this S3, and even from AWS perspective, they also have lots of controls in place. However, still, like, I always suggest to use Turbot. Turbot is like it can give little more security things. So it's like a day zero tool. You just start with Turbot, you define the policies, and once you have all those policies in place, no one can actually, even by mistake, they can put any buckets in public. So, or even sometimes you can also prevent them from creating bucket in another region where actually they should not be doing it. So yeah, Turbot is one of the tools that I use, and I love that a lot. And coming back to IAM and the user access management, yes, definitely that's also one of the important thing. Usually, again, as a best practice, you should have multi-factor authentication on, but people hardly do that. And usually they go with same username and password many times, like same password in all the wherever, whether they're Google or whether they're any other service provider. But so that is one of the key things, that we create the passwords, like we make sure that the passwords are secure. Also, they have some expiration date for that, like after 20-30 days it should not have you need to set the password again, list access control. So all these are the key parts as well. So that they are coming from, especially from IAM, and people usually miss that. Other than that, also, like, as we talk about access key and the secret, people never rotate them. So like sometimes I still saw some of the keys, like some people created in 2011 and they are like still kind of using it. Like when you go to the dashboard, it's already giving you notification that your keys are this many days old, you must rotate it, but they hardly rotate. So that's also one of the key thing. Also, CloudTrail, people like, okay, CloudTrail is there, but no one is using it, seeing that, okay, what's going on. Also the access advisor. So in my one of the when I was working in one of the project, I found out that the user key was being accessed to do like a lot of activities, but now that user is a super admin user. So no one actually thought that, okay, this user or this particular account is hacked and it is doing something. And eventually it ended up with a lots of bill. So that's also key thing. Have you seen such kind of scenarios?
Yes, definitely. I think that's a very good one, and I'll just make a comment too that Ankit and I have had some good chats before, and I've been down here in New Zealand and done most of my AWS work in New Zealand and Australia, a little bit in the US remotely, but Ankit's works with some pretty big scale customers and environments, probably a lot bigger than you probably see in New Zealand. but yeah, so I think that these are things that you'd start to see at scale, would affect your enterprise a lot more. Obviously, because there's that risk of data breach, there's risk of, AWS bill, going up, spiking up ridiculously. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one about access keys and credentials in general, passwords. One of the things I do in my day job or my business is we do security audits. So one of the things I commonly see is users that have left the company, or a generic user that was set up with full admin privileges, and they might have, they might be 4 or 5 years old. I know that's funny what you say also about, sending back to 2011. That's quite impressive. Yeah, I think this is because also another thing that, lots of cloud infrastructure is now becoming legacy, isn't it? Because we've got these more modern development patterns, whereas people started out in AWS, the first ones like Netflix and all these other, the cool cloud kids, when they started, I mean, that they were just building at scale, they're building at speed. But of course, they incur that massive technical debt, and they've got this sort of now it's sort of considered legacy.
That's 100% correct. And also, one more thing, apologies if you hear the cloud sound, because it's going to rain here. So like, I have a little bit background noise. So
No problem.
apologies for that. Definitely that's a key thing, that right now, like, many people don't feel that their infrastructure, like after certain after certain months, they need to revisit or audit their infrastructure and see that, okay, whatever we are using, is it really needed? First thing is, are there any chances that we need to apply a certain security patch and something to make sure that, like, it's upgraded and it's working fine. Like, let's say, for example, I still saw that people are using Amazon Linux One, which is like Amazon already stopped giving the operating system support, still people using it. So that's also one of the key thing. From this particular point, I just realized, I just remember. So while creating the, like, instances, one day I went to this like images, public images, and people put their their operate, like, complete source code and everything in image, and those images are publicly available. So probably that your company invested a lot to build a solution, and then, like, for the backup purpose, you are building an image or maybe snapshot, and then you are putting it in a public. So you are eventually losing everything that you created. So this is also one of the things that I saw in my previous experience. Yeah, these are the things that we need to clean up and make sure that no one is, like, repeating the same things. Have you seen any kind of such scenarios in your case?
Yeah, I think so. These are all common things. I mean, I've either seen them myself, or you read about them in articles, or you talk to other people in the industry, and they have this, these same problems, and that's right. I mean, there's so many little gotchas you can make, and yeah, I think this is a good example. One you mentioned was, just for people who are listening, they might be still quite new to AWS, but you can spin up an EC2 instance. You can save that as an image. And if you save it as an image, then you can also share that as a public image, or you can share it as an image to another account. Now, sometimes people will make the mistake of sharing that as a public image so everyone can see it. If people go and search for a particular operating system type in the AWS console, or via the CLI for a particular image, and the latest date, ordering by the latest date, then it's quite an easy, I would say, a vulnerability, I suppose. That could be, and then people can launch that image and they could see company secrets, anything that's on the server. It could be a Windows file server, it could be a Linux box, could be anything. And so it could have proprietary source code on there for your company. Yeah, and there's a lot of tools that sort of help. So you mentioned one like Turbot, was it? Or
Turbot.
Sorry, yeah, Turbot. Yeah, that's right. And there's quite a few tools out there now, and AWS Marketplace, you can go and have a look. But also, just in general, lots of tools that do security scanning, and they do things across your environment where you can look at different things. I don't think there's any one particular tool. There's tools that stand out, but there's no one tool that can do the whole lot. Which is true, isn't it? Because you've got so many areas, don't you? You start to, now we're talking about the cloud in general. We've got EC2 service, we've got databases, we've got your networking infrastructure. So you think about your VPC. We've got how you do your data center to cloud routing. You've got hybrid cloud, but then you also still talk about the modern application development patterns. So we're talking about serverless and Kubernetes and AI, machine learning, and the list goes on. And so you can't possibly secure everything with one tool, but you can at least have some good patterns. And I think also just brings to mind, I suppose, how do you sort of get an end goal in mind? I suppose it's a question for you, Ankit, and maybe something for us to discuss. Is it can be quite complex. How do you sift through all the information or sift through all the things, and where do how do you get to sort of an end goal or have a sort of vision for security that sort of can help guide an enterprise, with the AWS side?
So basically, like again, that is a good thing from AWS that they nowadays they are providing best practices for each and everything. So let's say, for example, when you go to EKS, so there are notes available. Like they have, I think AWS Git repo has everything. So again, even in my experience, I made certain mistakes that, like, okay, when you try to implement something, let's say, for example, just I wanted to implement EKS, then what will I do? I will just go to the like AWS site, and then I go through the blog, and then I just do it. But like that, there are more to that. Like it's like a GitHub pages, especially for implementing EKS security, implementing EKS performance. And we need to go through that, and these things sometimes it's defined in the security pillar as well, sometimes it is defined in the AWS workshop. So basically, like we need to shift focus all the time. What exactly do we want to achieve at the end of the day? So let's say if ECS and ECS security, just go and figure it out, like just find it out that, okay, where is the material for EKS security or ECS security. And probably like as we are growing this community, within our GitHub repo, we can also provide all the links so that, like, people can come. It's going to be like single point. You don't need to, like, yeah, it's better that you go to the AWS site, but also at the same time you come to our GitHub repo where we are referring each and everything. So that's the way. But yeah, it depends on what exactly end goal is. Like some of the customers, they are like in the financial industry, then we need to make sure that we are following PCI DSS things, as well as at the same time AWS security things, as well as the whatever region you are, that particular region has their own laws. So 3 laws you follow to just implement one security layer. So that's how actually I work whenever I need to do it. But still, like from whenever we think about security, we start from the code level. That, okay, when someone is coding, they have some based code practices they are following. They don't have any vulnerability at even that code level too, because your infrastructure is secure, but if your code is not secure, then you are not going to save anything. So we start with that thing, and then also, like, go with sonar scan, and also do lots of like dependency scan. Again, nowadays all the source code control tools are a little bit smart enough. Like in GitHub, they just send you dependency nodes that, okay, these dependencies, like, you are using outdated packages, just update it before you use it. So
Nice.
these are the key things. But again, if we like 100% focus on the infrastructure side, then we need to make sure that probably we do the vulnerability management, patch management. Like you run the patches on your operating system, whatever you are using, and also as and when upgrade is available, you just throw the upgrades to the server. So yeah, these are the key things, especially from just the EC2 instance perspective.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, especially that patching one, isn't it? Because sometimes the patching side is, I find that people focus on, you've got sort of the way you can ring fence the EC2 with the security groups. You can design your VPC, your networking side. You can, have your IAM configuration, but also we need to, be mindful of some of the traditional things that you still need to do, of course, which is your patching, which is, been around since day one. So patching, of course. And then, of course, if you're a developer, then or using third-party software that's open source, You know, and of course proprietary software has patching as well. But if you're developing as well as using third-party plugins, of course, with something like Node.js, you know, you could have over 1,000 dependencies, you know, dependency in the dependency tree, and then you need to be mindful of that as well. And of course, there's the OWASP top 10, you know, for your code. So not normal practices. So yeah, definitely in the cloud. I think it's, you know, you've got your normal standard practices for IT security in general. So your networking, your patching, your code vulnerability assessment, but you've also got to think about these other things that are specific to AWS, you know, around security groups. The concepts are still the same, but it's still just that it's in the cloud. It is a bit more complex. But I think that's a good point you mentioned. It's a good starting point as a code. You've got all these tools out there now, like, for example, when you commit your code to GitHub, that's awesome. Yeah. Hey, no, that's a really good discussion. You talked about the well-architected, so I'll just touch on that. And you talked about a well-architected framework, and basically what that is, you know, and also about the pillars. And so there's 5 pillars in the well-architected framework, which is around, actually, I'll just read those out because I always forget them off the top of my head. But yeah, so there's operational excellence, that's around running and monitoring systems to deliver value, basically, and improving processes and procedures. And then you've got your security, that's the second one, and then you've got reliability. Performance is your fourth one, and then cost optimization. And so this is a great thing that AWS have provided in terms of, you know, be able to not just secure your account, but just run your AWS account to best practice. And so definitely when you're thinking about security, I suppose, I mean, there's lots of different labs you can do. You can do hands-on labs. That's a good starting point. And it's quite nice on I think you mentioned one of these websites before, Ankit, which is wellarchitectedlabs.com. And I might just post that link there.
Let me share the links.
Yeah, sure.
Another also key part is that we can, if you want to prevent any system, like, or if you want to increase the security, then the best thing is that reduce the number of entry points. So like, let's say, for example, if your application is talking on port 80 only, or port 443 only, then just make sure that you keep just those ports open, not the complete, like everything is open and people come and start, like, you know, accessing, like port 22 SSH port is open and someone start, like, you know, password cracking or something, or like, you know, SSS they try to do. So that is also one of the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I posted it as well, but yeah, you posted it. That's good. I can see it there. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I've sort of, you know, I think also one of the things I've found challenging is I work with, you know, a lot of small businesses as well. So I use quite a few of the, I guess, you know, you can go really deep in these things. For example, the well-architected labs, there's so much information. So definitely if you're a reasonable size enterprise, you should be able to basically go through this. And you know, it's a journey. It's not just something you do overnight. Obviously, it can take months or a good year or two to implement and adopt these best practices. If you're a small business, obviously, you know, lots of things that are going to limit you on how well you do this is around your budget, your time, also your footprint. So in terms of what are you running in AWS, if you're a small business. I do work with quite a few different startups too that are different stages. And I find that what they need sometimes is just some practical fundamental things that are going to help them day one, and also get them to have a mindset of, you know, making things secure. Yeah, and I think that's quite challenging because, you know, obviously there's that balance as well with technical debt in terms of being able to move at lightning pace. There's always that pressure in a startup, as you know, and then being able to basically pick those things that are going to add the most value, you know, to your security or to your operations monitoring. You know, what things do you need to focus on for cost and that type of stuff. So yeah, it's a good discussion because it's actually not a really, security is a very broad thing. Yeah.
And again, like whenever this is the same challenge even I face nowadays. So we like each and every individual, they want solution like yesterday only. And in that case, the best way is that like AWS provides lots of ready to use templates for those solutions. So probably if you are just going to use cloud formation templates which are specifically for your whatever your requirement is, then go with that first, because they whenever you are using that, it may be little expensive sometimes, because it may add certain resources which are not needed, but still you can say it's little secure as compared to you just go and copy paste from somewhere else. So first preference is always kind of a verified vendor solutions that we use, and we follow it forward.
Yeah, nice. That's good. Another thing I was going to mention too was the account level. I was going to ask you, one of the things was there's Control Tower. So there's a product called AWS Control Tower, and also organizations, AWS organizations. How would you sort of see that working in terms of, you've got a large enterprise and you need to make sure that, you can manage security at a quite a big scale. Have you worked with that as well?
Yes, I work with both of them, and actually, I most of the time I work with AWS organizations, because usually, like nowadays, each and every company has other small entities, and even sometimes like people create organization in the case of dev and production workload is different. Like, okay, this is dev and test budget, so I would just want to use in this organization, and another one is like we just create another group where it's especially for production, so it's kind of separate entity, but still you are managing billing and everything. So people are using it that way, and definitely creating policy at the centralized level and then inheriting it is always easier than creating individual policy and then having need to see the problem in the later in the stage. Other than that, also there is a repository for the IAM better based IAM policies that you can use. I just shared in the chat. So basically, this particular repository is definitely, it's like read only right now, but they have very good IAM policies that you can start implementing to your AWS account. So which will make your work life very easier, because just apply those policies. So
Nice.
definitely Control Tower and all those tools are good, but when it's a startup, I would just always tell them that, okay, go with small things, because when you go with like 10 or 15 things, then it will dent on your budget. So
Right.
if you need EC2 instance, just run
Yeah.
one EC2 instance and focus on that. You just apply certain security layers. You just apply firewall rules. If required, you just put a web application firewall in front of that. And if you really need some more security, then you put them behind the cloud formation. Also, CloudFront, and also need to make sure that you don't have a public IP address with your EC2 instance. You are kind of little secure already, and your application will work fine, at least
Yeah,
for a
nice.
couple of years.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. As those in AWS organizations, so I mentioned that repository, read-only repository. Is that a repository available online?
Yeah, it's online. I just said just a second. I sent you I sent you the private chat. You can probably share it.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll share that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, definitely grab that one and put that up. Yeah, even if I put it up after the chat when I find it. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, are there any other things you can think of in the security space? My brain's gone a little bit foggy late at night, but
So other than that, we already talked about identity access management. We talk about EC2, RDS. Yes. So still, like some of the organizations are keeping their RDS with public access on. That's not good. But yeah, if you have public access on, you can keep it. But then again, you need to make sure that you are limiting with certain IP addresses who can actually access it. Also, Bastion host, which is one of the best choice to make sure that you have
Yes.
like auditing and logging policies. So like most of the time I use Teleport. So Go Teleport is a tool which can that can help you out in giving granular access to each and every users. So that is one of the choice. Yeah, Bastion host. It will solve a lot of issues as well. So,
Nice.
and security is not only about just hardening the thing. Also, we should have logging and monitoring as one of the part of it. Otherwise, like okay, we secured it, but if tomorrow any problem happens, then we still need to do a little reverse digging to see why does this issue, or why did this issue happen, and then who was behind that. So, logging, monitoring, auditing, and security.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, and also the RDS is the yeah. Actually, I'll talk about the monitoring a little bit. But before I do that, yes, going back to RDS databases, you can obviously use TLS encryption and encrypt at rest. I sort of forgot about this, and also it applies to a lot of the AWS services. You can encrypt things at rest using Amazon KMS. And that basically you can use a managed key or you create your own keys. So that's quite cool. If you're a particular, I will talk a little bit about KMS actually. So KMS is key management service, and that so by default, let's say you launch an EC2 or RDS instance, you won't get that encryption. But if you add encryption, it's not going to add any performance impact. It's actually a very good practice to enable encryption in your EBS volumes. So use KMS for that. You can also use KMS keys for storing data in S3, and there's lots of other services as well. So that's important. Also, I talked a little bit about TLS. So if you've got an RDS instance, then definitely try to enable try to enable TLS where you can. Obviously, there's some legacy code that might not work with TLS that nicely, but you just these are all things you can do as you can. The nice thing about KMS and encryption on disk too is that it's invisible. It's pretty much invisible to the operating system. I mean, which is great because it doesn't rely on any particular, operating system libraries or development libraries. Whereas the TLS, if you want to connect to a database from the code, then you just want to make sure that you've got obviously the OpenSSL libraries or particular libraries you need to be updated, as well as you need to make sure your connection strings, of course, otherwise everything will break. That's good. And you also talked about actually, there's a good question here. Will password policies with MFA help as well, and rotating them regularly? So that's a good question. Let's just come through. Hopefully.
Yes, definitely that will, but that is again just the account level security that we are talking about. Okay. So basically, like if we look from the complete AWS security thing, so how many things are important? First is like identity and access management. So definitely your question is related to identity and access management, where you are rotating your password and everything. You are forcing user to use MFA and everything. Other than that, also second part is the detection, that like whether you are detecting any anomalies, if anything is going on or not. Third thing is the infrastructure protection. That's most of the thing that today we talk about. That is like ECS, RDS, or even like any other things. Other than that, data protection. So just before a few minutes, as Ben talked about that KMS. So you at least encrypt your data, or encrypt your disk at least. So that's a key thing. Other than that, also compliance. So that is also one of the key things, that let's say if you are using PCI DSS, or if you have healthcare, so HIPAA or GDPR or PDPA, whatever is related to you. And also last but most important part is the incident response. So all these are actually bunched together in one security thing for AWS.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, yeah, it's going back to the monitoring. So there's Amazon CloudWatch. There's I just got a comment there. Great, thanks. Yeah. So there's obviously AWS CloudWatch is very basic level of monitoring, and what you can also do, you talked a little bit at the start about CloudTrail, and you've got AWS config as well. So you can bring all this data into, you can use AWS Trusted Advisor, you can use Guard Duty, and you can also use AWS Security Hub. Now, should we talk about all those services now that you can use these for SIEM? So you can use them for your security incident, the event management, understanding. So these are very massive amounts of, they do a big scope. And sometimes for me, I just get confused, like what does Guard Duty do? What does Trusted Advisor do? What does Security Hub do? How does it all fit in? What do they do? And so I'll be interested to discuss that a bit more. I think sometimes I just have to go to the AWS website and look, oh yeah, that's right, that one does that. This is, yeah.
So yes, that is the question that I always receive, and also especially like when AWS reinvent things are there, then at that time again I get little more things like, okay, we are going to release 10 more services for the same. Okay, now just tell me what services should I use. So again, probably from my perspective, AWS mentality or it is the same as what I have, that one solution one solution you cannot fix for all the questions.
That's true. Yeah.
So let's say, for example, for some of the companies, even just CloudWatch logs are more than enough for everything. And for some companies, they want some more granular data, or they want more details about how accounts and everything is behaving. Then probably they will go with security dashboard and everything, that how things are going and how they can improve it. So it again depends on, first of all, who is consulting. Second, what are their actual needs, because sometimes a company doesn't want to pay a lot. So whatever services we are talking about here, that most of the services are managed services, and managed services comes with a lot of cost. So sometimes they just go with whatever services are available, or what some open source solutions are available, they just deploy by themselves and then try to manage, where definitely in the long run it's going to be more expensive, but at the short term at least it can fulfill the needs. So that's my experience. But again, here for especially for this case, what we can do is, as in our AWS expert group, probably we can start going with some of the sessions, live sessions, where we can show them, okay, this is the tool, and this tool is giving you this much. Probably we can just try to cover at least one tool a month, and then people can explore more, and then we can also explore more to give them more ideas, like why is this tool preferable for these particular scenarios.
Yeah, I think that's really good, actually. That's a good idea, because we can have a screen share and then have some people, have a look at where we can discuss how this be used, for like yourself or one person presenting on that tool. That'd be great. Yeah, and I think this is good, because this is where, sometimes it can be overwhelming. I mean, even like ourselves, like you said, you view the reInvent sessions and there's 10 new products that might solve similar things, and so yeah, that's really good. I think, to give a bit of summary, is that CloudWatch is your very basic, your monitoring. You can use CloudWatch dashboards, and you can create dashboards and alerts, which is sort of your normal IT monitoring systems. And you can get notifications to email or to third-party monitoring tools. And then you can also send that data to AWS Security Hub, for example, or you could send it to a third-party product like Sumo Logic or some other logging tool. You could have an Elasticsearch cluster with Kibana, so you can view dashboards. I've seen some really neat setups, actually. I've just thinking back about 5 years ago. I walked into a software startup in New Zealand, the one of the most successful startups. I walked into their sort of engineering room, and they had 5 big TVs up, and they had dashboards, real-time dashboards, and I was impressed with their maturity in terms of their operations. They're monitoring the login as well as their security, and and that they'd use, I mean, not just AWS tools. I mean, to get where they had got into, they were using open source tools like Elastic, Kibana, Elastic, part of the Elastic stack, and they're using, I can't remember all the other tools, but I was impressed, and so I think this is like the dream, for monitoring, is to get to that place where your engineers have access to real-time insights, for incident response. To get to that, obviously, you need a team. You need to understand the software. So no, that's good. Yeah, excellent. What I'll do now is, I realize we're going to run out of time very soon in a few minutes. We might just close today's session in terms of just having a bit of conclusion. Maybe if you want to talk a little bit about any other thoughts you've got around security, or any summary you'd like to add as well.
So other than that, some key parts that usually I saw that people are not following, is still using the root account for everything. So that should not be there. So that's base thing that needs to be changed. Also, there are certain things that if you implement the complete security solution properly, that can help you out in actually optimizing your cost as well. So in the short term, definitely you are going to pay a little more, but if we see from the long term perspective, let's say, for example, we created certain policies that people cannot create more than one or two EC2 instances. So if we create such policies with tools like Turbot or some other tools, then we can make sure that these policies are applied at the IAM level as well. Then we can overall save a lot of cost by people even by mistake they are not releasing something. So these are the key things that probably we can cover in the future sessions. But yeah, that's pretty it from my side.
Excellent. No, thank you very much, Ankit, for joining today. Just to let you know, Ankit's one of the organizers for AWS Expert. I'll just close out the session just by saying to people listening, also, this has been recorded, so it will be up online as well. It's automatically going to be on YouTube. It'll be posted to LinkedIn. It'll be posted to social channels. So if you're listening to this as a recording, really love you to come and join our AWS Expert group. We're on Discord. We'll put the link up there in the comments so that you can see how to join. We're very early days. We've got about 30 people in our Discord, all different backgrounds. We're really about community. So the goal at the moment anyway, with AWS Expert is to just build a community centered around helping people on AWS, helping level up in terms of your skill level, get advice from experts. I think all of us are not considered experts at the moment because, even 10 years or 11 years like yourself, Ankit, you've been in the game. Every day is an opportunity to learn more. So I think it's a great community. There's obviously lots of other good communities, but I think one thing I love about this, what we're doing now, is just helping people point in the right direction. We're trying to have fortnightly meetings. We may change that to weekly. And then we've got, the opportunity, as Ankit said, and, someone asked before as well, we could have live cases or scenarios where we're actually showing, having a shared screen session. Excellent. Well, look, I really appreciate you, Ankit, and everyone who's listening now, just for this, taking the time out of your day, of your evening, of your morning, wherever you are. Just thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this community. And I will now just close it off. But before I do, I will post the link here for the Discord. And there we go. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll touch base soon, and we'll see you on the other side on Discord.
Thank you.
Excellent.
See you.
Thank you. See you. Bye.